Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, it's Cynicalex, and today I want to take a look at the biggest change that the Infinity War updates part 1 and 2 have brought to the game. And no, it's not Winter Soldier's uniform. It's the introduction of Tier 3 and, by extension, level 70 and Gear 25. This has been the biggest shift in terms of power level of characters, and it's also been the biggest shift in terms of consumption of resources, especially by veterans who thought that they had everything saved up for the next big character, and it has severely kind of evened out the playing field between a lot of the kind of intermediate to veteran level players and the long-time veterans, and it's made the kind of advantage that a lot of old-time veterans had much less pronounced, because everyone had to start spending vast quantities of black antimatter, chaos norn stones, and these new materials, these dimension dust and Titan component packs to get at these characters' gears up to 25. To get them to level 70, you have to use biometrics, and it just affected everyone equally. But the question I have for you guys is more along the lines of how worth it is that investment, that level 70 investment, that gear 25 investment. So I wanted to take a look a little bit deeper at that question, because I do see a lot of people asking from time to time, hey Cynicalex, should I get more 6-star characters? Should I get more tier 2s? Should I work on native tier 2s? Or should I just get more level 70 characters, more gear 25 characters? And I think it's a valid question to ask, especially because with every new update announced, i.e. Ant-Man and the Wasp now, we're expecting more level 70s and potentially more tier 3s. So this question is only going to get asked more and more. Now, having had a lot of experience and sacrifice getting characters to level 70, having one character at tier 3, and having a few at gear 25 or close to it with guys like Winter Soldier and Thor and Spider-Man and others, I think I have a pretty reasonable grasp on how much better characters get with their level 70. For some, it is quite a pronouncement and it's quite a jump. For others, it's not as big of a jump. But more so than the characters, I actually want to shift the focus away from them and ask the question that you've been asking yourself now, well, which one is it, Cynicalex? Is it going to be more tier 2s, more level 70s? Look at the game modes in Marvel Future Fight. So I wanted to take a look at the 5 quote-unquote kind of best, or the 5 game modes that encourage the most amount of effort on the part of the player to build their roster. So of course things like daily missions or special missions really don't require any roster building, because as long as you have one character that can do it and get through the stage, you can just repeat it kind of ad nauseum until you get tired. These are just simple grinding stages. Of course we skip things like epic quests, because while they do require character development, it doesn't require you to have a large roster. This is a roster developing game mode, not a game mode that requires a roster to be developed before you jump into the epic quest. It doesn't become easier when you have a larger roster. It only becomes easier when you can get the resources for these quests faster. But the way you do that is through largely the challenge and arena modes. So I'm going to be focusing on Shadowland, World Boss, and World Boss Ultimate, Timeline Battle, believe it or not, Alliance Battle and Alliance Battle Extreme, and then Story Mode, because contrary to what you might think, the story mode is actually a very good source of recurring resources for grinding, excellent source of biometrics, and it is a mega challenge for new players, especially getting past Odin on stage 12 or chapter 12, mission 12-8, and then getting past 13-8 with Thanos to get a 6-star Blue Marvel and a CTP of energy. And those are not kind of weak rewards that you want to brush off or ignore. Those are very meaningful and substantial for a new player, especially to continue building their roster for those other 4 game modes that I've just mentioned. So for the 5 game modes that we're discussing right now, which ones are actually important, or which ones actually need level 70 as a necessity? Well, it basically just comes down to Extreme Alliance Battle and high stages of World Boss Ultimate. Those are the only 2 game modes that I've discussed, that I've chosen of these 5, that actually reward you in some way for having level 70 characters, for having characters at gear 25. In the case of World Boss Ultimate, by high, I'm talking, you know, above stage 15, above stage 20, above stage 25. There still isn't a lot of evidence to suggest that you get guaranteed strictly better rewards on stage 20 versus stage 1. So there is an argument to be made that you don't even need level 70s or tier 3s for this game mode, because you should always be doing level 1 because it's the easiest, it's the fastest, and it's going to give you rewards that are almost the same as level 20. I can't speak for the booty boxes in terms of white, blue, and green, but for the other resources there doesn't seem to be a huge difference, and as frustrating as it is to admit, I've heard people playing stage 1 constantly who have more, for example, Titan books that I have, the Titan records for tier 3s, and that is probably the rarest item in the game right now. The other game mode that definitely does reward you for having more level 70s and more tier 3s is Alliance Battle Extreme. Now, whether you think Alliance Battle Extreme is a worthwhile game mode or not, that is personally up to you. So this is not something that I can guarantee for every player, because if you don't care about this game mode, you absolutely don't need level 70s and tier 3s for it. But if you are super competitive, if you are playing with a group of players, an alliance that are also super competitive, you will, in eventuality, will need to take care of that fact, and will need to get more level 70s and more tier 3s and more characters to gear 25 who will be able to compete at a higher level and bring in a bigger score for you for Extreme Alliance Battle. But outside of those two game modes, to be very honest and frank, you do not need level 70s for anything else at a competent level. Once you get good enough cards, once you get a grasp of how to gear out your characters in terms of ISO 8 sets that fit them properly, Uru and obelisks and uniforms, there really is no need to go past, at least for now, level 60 and, you know, gear 20, tier 2, of course. In the sense of, or in the case of Shadowland, you can definitely complete up to stage 24 with tier 1 characters. So that doesn't even require tier 2 characters. Now, a lot of the tier 1 characters that you're going to want to use past stage 15 are very powerful characters at tier 1, like for example Spider-Man 2099, Agent Venom, Enchantress, Luna Snow, and a whole bunch of other ones. But with that being said, it is possible, and it's not, you know, a mountain of difficulty to get up to stage 24 without even using tier 2s. So you only need technically tier 2s for the last 6 stages. There are by no means any stages that you need a tier 3 or a level 70 or a gear 25 to complete. And I realize you need to be level 70 to be gear 25. I just want to make it clear that no combination of those factors are required for Shadowland. The difficulty is just not there. It's just not that difficult. Apologies if you're having difficulty with it, but it probably has more to do with either your cards, low level alliance, or the fact that you haven't built the character up enough, learned their rotation, stuff like that, not having to do with the character not being at level 70, not being at gear 25. In the case of story mode, everyone who played the game, you know, a year before Infinity War was able to complete up to chapter 13. Chapter 13 came out in November of last year, so it's been out for months, and it was completable before tier 3 was a thing, before level 70 was a thing, before even Black Panther had his newest uniform. So this is definitely not a necessary thing to complete and to have those level 70s and those tier 3s. The last one that I discussed was Timeline Battle, and at first I thought, well, yeah, you know, level 70s and tier 3s do get more out of their fights in Timeline, and you do see a lot of level 70s, you know, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Spider-Man, Iron Man, and they do better. They're harder to kill, and, you know, they generally succeed more. But then I realized that there's tons of level 60 characters that dominate Timeline Battle without having these upgrades. Nova, Quicksilver, Adam Warlock, Jean Grey, Dormammu. There's just a ton of characters that don't have their tier 3, that don't have level 70, that can't get to gear 25, Apocalypse, etc. And they're still Wolverine, very, very good in Timeline Battle. So it's definitely not a necessity for any of those game modes. Now I want to look at something a little bit different. I want to look at return on investment, and this would basically be how much are you being rewarded for excelling in these game modes with any kind of character. So that would mean that the more you excel, the more there is an emphasis on having level 70 characters and having native, or not native tier 3s, but tier 3 characters. So in terms of the game mode that gives you the greatest return on your investment, without a doubt it has to be Shadowland. Whether you're getting over 200 battles per week, whether you're getting over or at least 50 uniform upgrade chips, XP chips, there's just a lot to be had from Shadowland. And as I said before, you don't need tier 2s, or you don't even need tier 3s or tier 2s to complete up to stage 15 of Shadowland, which is where you get the biometrics from. And to complete the whole thing from 1 to 30, you don't need too many, tier 2s and native tier 2s. But it has the greatest return on investment, so that would mean that you have to put in less to get as much or more from other game modes. For example, to get the most out of Extreme Alliance Battle in terms of the highest scores, you have to put way more investment than you do for Shadowland, but Shadowland gives you much better returns than Extreme Alliance Battle does. On average, you're going to see, about 600,000 gold or less per day from Extreme Alliance Battle, even if you're only completing it to 100,000 on the Extreme mode. You can grind out more than that in gold per day from story missions if you have a lot of energy saved up. And that's not even counting the things that you get on the side, like Uru, like, biometrics, Norn Stones, gear up kits, all of these items that you're not getting from Extreme Alliance Battle. So the return on investment on ABX, despite the fact that it's such a heavily prized game mode for certain people, and aside from the fact that you need extremely expensive items like CTPs of energy to play it competitively, the return on your investment is very shallow. None of the items that I ever get from Extreme Alliance Battle are ever going to equal the investment that I've made with a character like Winter Soldier, and I only use him once a week. So when you take that into consideration, you can further rank these game modes as follows. I would say that Shadowland is the highest return on investment, then World Boss and World Boss Ultimate for the different resources that they drop there, in addition to the biometrics you get for super rare characters and those native tier 2s. Then we have Timeline Battle, because it does give you, up to 200 crystals per week, which is very good for free-to-plays, plus 500,000 gold, plus a bunch of honor tokens that you can use for card upgrades and stuff like that. Then Story Mode for the stuff that I've already mentioned. And then finally we have AB and ABX. So once you see it that way and you compare the return on investment list to the level 70 necessary list, you see that, the second and fifth place game modes are the only ones that really reward you for bringing in level 70s and tier 3s, and even World Boss and World Boss Ultimate is arguably not a necessity for those game modes. So you basically you're left with just one game mode at the moment, currently, that rewards you tremendously for bringing in those high level investments. Tons of black antimatter for gear 25, tons of biometrics sacrificed for level 70, and millions of gold just washed away. I think that pretty much answers the question for you guys. I hope it does, because it answered it for me. And although I'll still be getting more characters to level 70, and I'll still be hopefully gearing up characters to level 25 to maybe get them to tier 3 eventually, it is something that's going to stick out in my mind, and it is something that we're going to need to look at moving forward, because yes, the game modes are difficult. Some of the game modes are difficult right now, but compared to the kind of advancements we're seeing for characters right now, especially like Captain America, there is very little in terms of content that stands in his way, and when he gets that heroic charge going, nothing can stop him. So we definitely would like to see more challenging content to justify and necessitate more of these level 70s and more of this kind of massive investment and cost and sacrifice of resources that they're asking us for. Otherwise, I'm afraid to admit that these level 70s, these gear 25 characters right now, if you don't play ABX, are just expensive trophies. So I hope you are happy with your expensive trophies. If not, maybe reconsider some of them and build out the rest of your roster in the meantime, or just save it for some future event. Let me know what you think in the comments down below of those ideas. Subscribe if you enjoyed the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my content. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.